My shadow moved 3 seconds before I did. It started innocently enough, or so I thought, in the dim glow of my apartment lamp one rainy evening. I was alone, as always, scrolling through my phone in the quiet after midnight. The rain pattered against the window like impatient fingers, and the room felt heavier than usual, the air thick with the scent of damp earth seeping through the cracks. That's when I noticed it. My silhouette on the wall stretching unnaturally, shifting before my hand even twitched toward the light switch. I froze, heart pounding in my ears, telling myself it was a trick of the light, fatigue from another sleepless night. But deep down, a chill wormed its way into my gut, whispering that something had changed. I sat there for what felt like hours, replaying the moment in my mind, questioning every flicker of the bulb, every shift in the rain's rhythm. Was it the way the water distorted the streetlight outside, or something more insidious? The doubt lingered, a seed planted in fertile soil of isolation, growing roots that would soon entangle my every thought. At first, the movements were subtle. I'd stand to get a glass of water, and my shadow would linger a beat too long in its old position, as if reluctant to follow. It was like watching a puppet hesitate before the strings pulled taut. Then, bolder, while I sat at my desk typing emails, it slithered across the floor independently, curling around the legs of the chair like smoke from a dying fire. I could almost feel its cool draft on my ankles, though no breeze stirred the air. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, even turned on every light in the place, flooding the room with harsh fluorescence that should have banished it. Nothing. The shadow persisted, mocking me with its autonomy, defying the physics I'd taken for granted all my life. Paranoia set in. I avoided mirrors, kept the curtains drawn during the day, convinced that sunlight would make it worse, amplifying its reach into the open spaces. Nights blurred into a haze of vigilance. I'd lie in bed, eyes wide, watching the outline on the ceiling warp and twist as if breathing, expanding and contracting with a rhythm that mimicked my own pulse but out of sync. Whispers seemed to emanate from it, faint at first, like wind through leaves rustling secrets, but growing clearer. My name, repeated softly, urgently, as if calling me to join it in some unspoken pact. Each utterance chipped away at my resolve, making me question if the voice was external or a fracture in my own mind. The peak came on the third night. I woke to the sound of footsteps, not mine, padding across the hardwood floor, deliberate and unhurried, echoing in the confined space. The room was pitch black. I'd unplugged every bulb in fear, preferring the void to the betrayal of light. My shadow detached fully then, rising from the wall like ink spilling upward from an overturned bottle, forming a humanoid shape that loomed over my bed, its edges fraying into tendrils that probed the air. It reached out, cold fingers brushing my skin like the touch of frost on glass, and I felt the loss of control absolute, my body paralyzed as it pulled at the edges of my soul, tugging at the very essence that defined me. Panic surged, a tidal wave crashing through my veins. I screamed, thrashing free with a surge of adrenaline that propelled me from the sheets, and fled into the hallway, slamming the door behind me with a force that rattled the frame. When I mustered the courage to look back, the shadow had retreated, but the door's silhouette pulsed with malice, throbbing like a vein under strain, a silent promise of return. I barricaded myself in the bathroom that night, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead like a swarm of angry bees trapped in the fixture. But even there, in the stark white tiles that should have offered purity and safety, a faint darkness pooled at my feet, waiting patiently, seeping from the grout lines like black mold taking hold. I haven't slept since. That shadow isn't just mine anymore. It's something else, something hungry, with an appetite that stirs in the quiet moments, feeding on my fear and growing stronger with each evasion. Reflecting on it now, I realize how it mirrored my own detachment, the way I'd isolated myself from friends and family, letting emotional shadows lengthen unchecked until they took physical form. That was just the beginning of the darkness that followed me everywhere, an unrelenting companion that blurred the lines between refuge and trap. 2 weeks later, I sought refuge in the woods behind my childhood home, hoping the dense canopy would smother any lingering traces, the natural shadows overwhelming the unnatural one that haunted my urban life. The air there was crisp, laced with pine and moss, a far cry from the city's stifling concrete and exhaust fumes that clung to everything. I hiked deep into the forest, backpack slung over my shoulder, convincing myself the isolation would clear my head, wash away the residue of that apartment nightmare, like rain on a grimy window. Birds chirped sporadically, their songs a tentative melody, and sunlight dappled the path through leaves that whispered overhead. But as the trees thickened, an unnatural quiet descended, broken only by the crunch of leaves underfoot and my own ragged breathing. It started with glimpses, rustles in the underbrush that no animal could explain, movements too deliberate for wind or wildlife. I paused to catch my breath, leaning against a gnarled oak whose bark was rough and ancient under my palms, when I saw it. Not my shadow, but something else's, slinking between the trunks with a fluidity that mocked the rigid forms of nature. Elongated limbs, too many joints bending at impossible angles, a form that defied the light's logic, merging with the forest floor's shadows as if born from them. I laughed it off as imagination run wild, perhaps a deer or fox distorted by fatigue, but the unease gnawed deeper, burrowing into my chest like thorns. As dusk fell, painting the sky in bruised purples, the creature's presence grew bolder. Twigs snapped closer, echoing like warnings, and I caught whiffs of decay, like rotting meat hidden beneath the foliage, a stench that turned my stomach and quickened my pulse. My flashlight beam trembled in my hand, the circle of light dancing erratically, revealing fleeting glimpses, eyes like black voids reflecting the light back at me with malevolent gleam, claws scraping bark with a sound like nails on slate, leaving gouges that wept sap like blood. Panic built as night fully claimed the woods, the darkness thickening into a palpable force that pressed against my skin. I ran, branches whipping my face, drawing thin lines of blood that stung in the chill air and mixed with sweat, blurring my vision. The creature pursued, its shadow body undulating over roots and stones, faster than any beast should be, adapting to the terrain with eerie intelligence. Isolation hit hard. No phone signal to call for help, no trail markers to guide me back, just endless trees closing in like the bars of a cage woven from nature itself. Helplessness washed over me as it cornered me against a fallen log, moss-covered and damp, its form coalescing into a mass of writhing tendrils that reached out probing, tasting the air. I swung my backpack wildly, connecting with something solid yet yielding, like striking putty wrapped in leather, and bolted again, lungs burning with each gasp, legs aching from the uneven ground. The chase ended at a clearing, where moonlight bathed me in silver, a fragile illumination that made the creature recoil, dissolving into the treeline with a guttural hiss that lingered in my ears like a curse. Dawn found me collapsed by a stream, shivering uncontrollably, the water's murmur a fragile comfort against the night's echoes. But as I splashed my face, the cold shock grounding me momentarily, I saw it in the reflection. Faint tendrils weaving through the current's shadows, subtle but undeniable, hinting at persistence beyond the visible. The woods weren't a sanctuary, they were its hunting ground, a vast expanse where light and dark waged war, and I was merely collateral. I left that place, but the scratches on my arms throb with memory, a reminder that some creatures don't need light to find you. They thrive in the spaces between, waiting for the moment you falter. Looking back, that forest encounter deepened my understanding of how the supernatural preys on our nostalgia, twisting familiar places into arenas of terror. 3 days after escaping the forest, the paranoia twisted inward, burrowing into my mind like roots seeking fertile soil, transforming external threats into internal battles. Back in the city, I locked myself in a motel room, the neon sign outside flickering through threadbare curtains, casting erratic patterns on the peeling wallpaper that seemed to writhe in the glow. The room smelled of stale smoke and regret, a temporary cage I hoped would shield me from the external horrors, with its locked door and dim bulb offering a false sense of security. But the real terror was brewing inside, fed by sleepless hours and the constant replay of those shadows in my thoughts, each memory amplified by isolation and doubt. It began with doubts, small at first, insidious whispers that eroded confidence. Was that creak the building settling, or footsteps in the walls, pacing parallel to my own? I'd catch myself staring at my hands, convinced they moved of their own accord, fingers twitching when I swore they were still, as if puppeteered by invisible strings. Mirrors became enemies. My reflection lagged, smiling when I frowned in confusion, eyes darting to corners when mine stayed fixed ahead, creating a doppelganger that taunted my sanity. The loss of control was insidious, eroding my grip on reality like acid on metal, leaving pockmarks of uncertainty. Whispers returned, not from shadows now, but from within. "You're not alone," they'd say, overlapping my own voice until I couldn't distinguish source from echo, the words looping in my skull like a broken record. I paced the room, heart racing, the carpet's rough weave grounding me momentarily before the vertigo returned, spinning the world into a carousel of fear. Examples piled up, reaching for a glass, only to find it already in my hand without recollection. Hearing my laughter from the bathroom when I sat alone in the bed. The climax shattered me in the dead of night. I woke convinced the bed was tilting, the room spinning in slow, nauseating circles that defied gravity. My mind fractured. Visions of the shadow and the creature merged, convincing me I was becoming them, the boundaries between self and other dissolving. I clawed at my skin, desperate to excavate the darkness I felt spreading beneath, blood welling in crescent moons on my arms, the pain a stark anchor to reality, yet fueling the delusion. Paranoia peaked as I hallucinated figures in the corners, my own face staring back from the shadows, mocking my unraveling with exaggerated grins and silent accusations. I smashed the lamp, plunging the room into blackness that swallowed screams, and curled into a ball, sobbing as the internal storm raged unchecked, thunder in my temples. Morning light filtered in weakly, revealing the wreckage, shattered glass glinting like accusations, bloodied sheets twisted in agony. I bandaged my wounds with trembling hands, but the reflection in the cracked mirror winked independently, a final twist of the knife. The psychological scars run deeper than any claw. Now, every thought questions itself, every shadow a potential fracture in my sanity, a reminder that the mind's darkness can eclipse the world's. I wonder how long until the inside matches the out, until the whispers become commands. A month passed in fragile normalcy, but rules emerged to contain the encroaching dread, unspoken at first, then etched into my routines like commandments carved in stone, a desperate bid for order amid chaos. I rented a cabin by the lake, far from civilization, the water's glassy surface reflecting a sky that felt too vast, too watchful, mirroring my inner turmoil. The wooden walls creaked under the wind's assault, sighing like weary sentinels, and the scent of wet earth mingled with the faint rot of fish from the shore, a reminder of decay's proximity. Isolation was my ally now, or so I believed, as I imposed structure to fend off chaos, transforming survival into ritual. Rule number 1. Never turn your back to the window after sunset. It started simple, born from that first shadow's betrayal, a lesson in vulnerability. I'd sit facing the glass, back to the wall for support, watching the tree lean for anomalies, the darkening woods a canvas for potential threats. But violations crept in, glancing away for a drink of water, and I'd hear scratches on the pane, faint as nails on chalkboard, insistent and probing. Escalation followed. Rule number 2, no lights after 10 p.m., to avoid casting new shadows that might invite the old ones back. The darkness pressed in, auditory illusions amplifying, whispers from the lake, splashes that weren't fish jumping, but something surfacing with intent. Helplessness mounted as I adhered rigidly, the rules multiplying like weeds. No mirrors to avoid reflections that lied. No reflections in water that distorted truth. No stepping outside under moonlight that empowered the unseen. Each rule came with its own example of near miss. Once, breaking the light rule led to a silhouette forming in the corner, retreating only when I doused the bulb. The breaking point came on a stormy night, thunder rumbling like distant laughter mocking my efforts. I'd broken rule number 3, don't answer knocks. Out of desperation for human contact, the loneliness a sharper blade than fear. The door rattled, persistent against the gale, and against better judgment, I cracked it open, peering into the rain-slicked porch. No one there, but the threshold's shadow stretched inward, defying the storm's fury, a dark invitation. It surged thin, a tide of darkness flooding the room like ink in water, enforcing its own rules. Surrender control, yield to the inevitable. I fought, barricading with furniture that scraped across the floor, but the shadows coiled around my ankles, pulling me toward the lake's edge with inexorable force. The climax was submersion, cold water closing over my head, rules dissolving in the murk as the darkness claimed temporary victory, bubbles escaping my lungs in silent pleas. I surfaced gasping, the storm abated to a drizzle, the cabin intact but forever tainted, its corners holding echoes of the intrusion. The rules saved me that night, pulling me back from the brink through sheer repetition, but they bind tighter now, a noose of paranoia woven from necessity. One slip, and the dread wins, unraveling the fragile web I've spun. Transitions between rules became moments of reflection, each enforcement a meditation on loss, deepening my resolve, yet hollowing my spirit. That endless vigilance led me to question existence itself, under starless skies that seemed to press down with cosmic weight, indifferent to mortal struggles. In the city's observatory, an abandoned relic on the outskirts, I sought answers amid dusty telescopes and star charts yellowed with age, their faded constellations mocking my search. The air was dry, metallic, echoing with the hum of forgotten machinery that wheezed like a dying breath. Alone with the universe's indifference, I peered through the lens, hoping to map the shadow's origin, to trace their threads back to some celestial source. It unfolded gradually, stars winking out one by one, not eclipsed but erased, as if the void hungered, devouring light with casual greed. My mind reeled, piecing together the encounters, the shadow's autonomy, the creature's pursuit, the psyche's fracture, the rule's tyranny, all threads in a larger tapestry of insignificance, woven by forces beyond comprehension. Escalation warped perception, the observatory's walls curved inward, the cosmos contracting to swallow me whole, compressing infinity into claustrophobia. Isolation amplified the existential terror. What if these horrors were harbingers, humanity's flicker against an uncaring abyss, our fears mere echoes of greater voids? Examples flooded my thoughts. Ancient myths of shadow realms, scientific anomalies in dark matter, all converging on my personal dread. The peak was revelation. Through the telescope, I saw not stars, but eyes, infinite and cold, watching back with unblinking scrutiny, judging the speck that was me. Loss of control was total. I was a speck in the vastness, my struggles futile against the encroaching nothing that whispered of oblivion. Paranoia bloomed into awestruck horror as the building trembled, shadows from all stories converging in a vortex that pulled at the air, threatening to drag me into the ether. I fled into the night, the observatory crumbling behind like a monument to delusion, dust and debris scattering underfoot. Yet the stars remained dimmer, the weight heavier, a constant pressure on my shoulders. We're not alone. We're irrelevant, and the darkness knows it, reveling in our quiet desperation. This cosmic brush deepened my reflections on scale, how personal terror mirrors universal indifference. I moved to a new city 5 years ago, chasing normalcy in unfamiliar streets and faces. Last night, my shadow moved first again. The cycle endures, unresolved, a haunting reminder that some dreads are eternal, looping through life like an unbreakable chain.